Super. Right. So, Sarie, thank you very much for giving me your time again. We tried earlier in the week, didn't we, to get together and talk about the three principles, but we seem to have been none the wiser about Facebook's changes of how lives work. But, so you're recording this for us today, Sarie, and then we're going to give it out to everyone that wanted to see it. So, Sarie, what I've got for you is people have been contacting me when I've told them that you're coming to speak with us today, and they have been sharing their experiences really of lockdown. So, in part about themselves, and then because I work with parents and carers as well, so there's some parts of it as to do with children. And I've picked, that is similar to what I did last week. So, I've picked 3 questions that really grasp the themes of all the stuff that's been coming through over the last week. So I've got those that I thought that we might leave to the end. So if we explore your work and the 3 principles, and then we'll see how you might answer these questions using the 3 principles.
Yeah.
That sound right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right, so I'm going to let you know that I've been doing a little bit of reading. I think when I can't remember what group it was that I spoke to you in, and you mentioned a couple of times, then you sent me that training, linked some training for the 3 principles, and said it would be the best training of my life.
Yeah.
So obviously I was very intrigued. So can you give us a lowdown about what the 3 principles are?
Yeah, that training that you're talking about was, it was cancelled obviously because it was the guy that was running the training is a psychiatrist in the US, and he's 78 years of age. 78? Yeah, approximately 78. And he's been my mentor for a while now. So I have Skype sessions with him, and he's been coaching the 3 principles. Oh, he doesn't say coaching. He's been teaching and exploring the 3 principles for the last 40 years. And because he's got kind of a clinical background, I was really drawn to him because when I trained as a psychotherapist, obviously went on to have psychotherapy clients and stuff like that. And then when I came across these 3 principles, it was almost a bit like, surely it can't be this straightforward. Like, if it is, I'm going to kick myself because I've been learning all this stuff and all these theories, and what if it's really that simple? So I did have my doubts when I first came across it. But what I liked about him is that he'd chosen to use them with phenomenal results, and he trained as a psychiatrist, so he trained even longer than I had. And so I liked that about him, so I followed him, and he's just an amazing man. So I managed to convince him to come to Manchester, so I was so excited. And then flipping coronavirus meant that he couldn't come, but I was just trying to think, everybody that I know that would benefit, just like, because I'm quite passionate about people that work with other people. I think because we are the best placed people to get the message out there because we're seeing people. So I am really passionate about other professionals as well, exploring a bit about it, even for themselves as well, because when I was working as a psychotherapist, I was still struggling on and off with anxiety. So you wouldn't know from the outside. I'd hide it. I was really good at hiding it, and people wouldn't know, and I'd still appear really confident. But what would happen is about every 18 months, I would get burnt out. I would get to the point where I was thinking, I can't do this anymore, and I'd probably take a couple of months off work. So I was still in a cycle of burnout and anxiety and stuff like that. And then again, when I came across these 3 principles, that all changed. Like, I haven't experienced burnout since. I can't imagine I would, because I just can't. I mean, I might, but at the moment I can't see how I would. And so it's for that reason as well, because I think sometimes as professionals, it's expected, or we put pressure on ourselves to be all singing, all dancing, always okay. And it's just not possible because we're human at the end of the day.
I remember a conversation with you years ago now, because we've met, we trained in the same place, didn't we? I think we've met once, but we spoke quite a lot of...
I feel like I've met you more than that.
No, we was gonna hook up in Leeds once, and then the life happened and that didn't happen. But I remember us saying, kind of the idea that therapists are almost like personality-less, like how much of ourselves can we bring into the room. And I think we was exploring the idea of using social media and how much of yourself do you make visible. And the conversation that we had was along the lines of that if we try and be somebody that we're not, then the burnout increases. And so I think, you know, the idea that you say that we're expected to be all singing, all dancing, no issues, no anxiety.
And it's kind of like, if you've got issues, take them to supervision and separate them out, where actually, again, one of the things I love now, and I'll say what the principles are in a minute, but one thing I love now about these 3 principles is the only way that I can share these 3 principles is by sharing my personal experience. That's the only way, because I don't know what goes on in your head. I don't know your experience, because only your experience. So all I can share is my own. And for me, that was like just heaven, because I do that naturally. And I was having to rein myself in as a psychotherapist, like, watch what I'm sharing and will I get in trouble? And now I'm just like, there you go, have it all. It's like, I'm not bothered. So it does feel freeing for me to be able to, you know, people can't really argue with your experience. So I go through a lot of my work and coaching is telling people about the insights I've had along the way and my experience. And then that often will trigger an insight in them, but it's their insight. It's like, you know, and that's the good thing. It's about taking that responsibility personally for ourselves. Yeah. It means that in a way, in my head, I let go of all that responsibility for everybody else. That was refreshing.
So it's not just about it being therapeutically, you know, I guess when you share yourself, it's got to have therapeutic advantage, hasn't it, when you're doing psychotherapy?
Yeah.
Everything's got to have a theoretical backing, and you've got to be able to justify why you've shared. Mm-hmm. So this sounds as though it's a lot more in line with how you are naturally.
Yeah, because what I share is what comes to mind for me to share. So when I go on a live video, I don't think, right, this is what I'll share today. I literally am 5 minutes before thinking, that's what I'll share. So I can just trust my gut instinct, what comes up in the moment. And I think that's allowed me to be the most authentic version of myself ever, which again, I think is why I don't burn out like I did, because I'm not saying I was fake or false with my clients, and previous clients would see me now as probably not that much different, but I would then go away in my head thinking, have I shared too much? Should I have said this? Should I have said that? And now I just trust in the process so much more, and it's actually a pleasure, rather than sometimes I was coming away from a session with a slight element of paranoia of, have I said the right things? You know, am I going to damage somebody? Whereas I don't believe any of that now, because I believe that, you know, I don't believe anybody's broken. I believe, you know, things happen at the right time. And I know it sounds a little bit airy-fairy, but it's actually really not. But it's... So if I say what the 3 principles are, because people think you talk about it and then I don't really say what it is mind, thought, and consciousness. Mind,
thought, and consciousness. So that blows my mind that they're separated.
Okay. In what sense?
Well, I guess mind and thought seem very much connected for me.
Are you thinking more like brain mind, like the brain?
I am, yeah.
Okay. So it's different. Mind in this context is referred to as, you know, so for some people it will be God. For some people it will be spirituality. For some people it will be just a knowing. So things like, you know, you've had children, Alex, so I'm pretty sure at times you went through your pregnancy with a slight disbelief of, how am I growing a human being inside my stomach? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And feeling a bit like, what is going on? You know, the fact that we wake up in the morning and we don't have to tell our lungs to fill with air to breathe, we just breathe. The fact that we don't have to get our heart to beat, it just beats. Our bowel movements, our everything, all of that stuff that's taken care of. Something that's bigger than us, that's kind of very difficult to explain, which is why, again, some people will see it as God, or they'll put, you know, for them it's something different. But actually, it's just that life force energy that is around, you know, the reason that how do the leaves know to fall off the trees at a certain time and then grow back? How does, you know, flowers turn towards the sun when they need more sun? Like, all of that stuff that is just taken care of.
Okay, so if I relate that to anxiety, then, so it would be the the stress hormones that are released. So the body just releases adrenaline and cortisol and prepares you for fight or flight and
the body knows exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And what happens with most, I don't always like to say all because everybody's experience is different. I don't want to discount anyone's experience, but most people who I come across who are in a state of anxiety, they've lost total faith and total awareness that we've got that mind or wisdom, whatever you want to call it. Some people like to call it you've got instincts. It's just they forget that they're taken care of, and what they're doing is they're almost trying to interfere with that system. Yeah. And so in a way it's kind of like your gut instinct, we know what to do. We've all got, so this universal mind, wisdom, whatever you want to call it, we've all got it. It's like an internal sat nav. We just know what to do. If we listen, we know what to do. And sometimes when we feel like it's not there and we don't know what to do, it's because we're in a panic and we're lost in anxious thinking instead of, so a lot of three principles coaches refer to it like your inner wisdom, whatever it is, or God, if you want to call it God, is like a flute playing in an orchestra. And the anxious thinking and the panicked thoughts and the overthinking is like the bass drum. Now, when that's really loud, it's like the flute stopped playing, but it hasn't. It's not stopped playing, it's just drowned out with all the thinking. And as soon as that thinking then settles back down, we hear the flute again. So one of the most frustrating things sometimes for people is they'll say, I just can't decide, I just can't make, and the temptation is to go, well, what about this? And have you thought about this? And I just say, sleep on it, let your mind settle, and you'll just know what to do.
Yeah.
Because we do. As soon as the mind quietens down, we know exactly what to do. So, for example, panic attacks, people worry so much about, I can't go out because what if I have a panic attack? And again, this is where this mind comes in, because if you have a panic attack on the top of a mountain, in a supermarket, or tucked up in your own bed, your body does the same thing. It doesn't matter where you are. The only difference is that you believe you can't do it because you have a whole load of thinking around what you need to do in that situation when there's nothing for you to do.
Because the body takes care of itself.
The body takes care of it. It's a very natural process that happens when we send what ifs, worry. We're telling, I call it like your internal A&E, we're telling our body we're in danger even when we're not. So it's only responding to what we're telling it. And there is nothing for us to do. Adrenaline in the body settles relatively quickly. But the reason sometimes people will experience having panic attacks over a long period of time, I think I went for about 3 weeks once without having 3 hours in between without having a panic attack. Before I was hospitalised, it was that severe. And the reason for that is not because my body wasn't able to get rid of adrenaline, but as soon as I would settle, I'd be too quick to start with the what ifs again. Oh, what if that...
Your nervous system is constantly kept on high alert.
Yeah. And it's, again, we're not broken. It's like we're constantly pushing the alarm button, constantly, habitually pressing the alarm button.
And I guess if we liken it to the way that we train our muscles, when our body experiences something consistently and over a period of time, it becomes almost better at it, although the experience is that it's worse.
Yeah, so what happens is you don't even realise then you're doing it. Because again, a lot of people say to me, Sarie, you're saying that my thoughts are creating these feelings, but I'm not having any thoughts. It's like, yes, you are. You're just not even noticing. Like you have to be having thoughts, but you're just so quick to do it or not noticing it. And then once you start to see that, then and that's where the next bit comes in, which is thought, understanding thought. So 100% of the time, no exceptions whatsoever, we are experiencing our thinking, because otherwise we wouldn't know we were even alive if we weren't thinking. So there's nothing we don't experience through thought. And thought is a wonderful gift. It gives us a lot of great experiences. It means we're quite, we're intelligent. We're an intelligent species. Like, it's a gift. But again, when it's overused and we use it to beat ourselves with, and we use it to worry unnecessarily, it becomes, people suffer with it. And usually it's because there's a misunderstanding of how it works, and people believe their thoughts to be true, and yet thoughts aren't truths. They're only ever perceptions of our experience and our reality in that moment.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like really simple. It's like, yeah, of course I know that. And if you'd have asked me before I came across these principles, thoughts create your feelings. I go, yeah, I know that. But yeah, I was still massively anxious. So I didn't know that. I knew that in here, but I would say I didn't know it in here. So I could intellectualize it, and I was really good at theorizing and intellectualizing stuff, but I didn't really truly believe it. So for example, I'd think, well, yeah, thoughts create feelings, but then if somebody I didn't like was consistently annoying me, everything would be outside in again. So I'd be thinking, well, it's their fault. And if I can't get away from that situation or that situation, I'm going to be stressed, I'm going to be anxious. Whereas that's not how it works. It only ever comes from the inside out.
So I guess that's the difference between the theory and the process then, isn't it? Is that what you're describing to us is the theory, and the process is about how to experience it from here. So to have it integrated and fully understand the network.
So we'll call it like insights. So it's having insights into how things work. And it's not, the thing is about these principles, it's not a theory. So it's not like a prescription. It's not a X, Y, and Z, 3 parts to it. You have to follow these 3 parts. All I'm doing is describing how human nature works already.
Yeah.
This is how we've all worked since day one. But someone like me, who was anxious for a long time, was constantly interfering with that system. Constantly. Because I wanted to control everything. And I couldn't accept that I wasn't in control of anything, which we're not, ultimately. We're not in control of anything. We're certainly not in control of our thoughts that we have. And yet, for me, I was trying so hard to figure everything out. And part of the issue of why I stayed anxious for so long is because I was trying so hard to fix myself.
To take control.
Yeah. I wanted it gone. I wanted anxiety completely gone out of my life. And I felt that I had to just keep trying everything, trying really hard to fix it, to get rid of it. And in trying, what I was doing is keeping it as a priority in my life for far too long.
Wow.
Because I thought it was just something that happened to me. Even again, as a therapist, I didn't fully understand that I was creating it. It felt like I'd been dealt certain cards that were maybe unfair, and then I'd be managing okay, and then something else would come along unfairly and unexpectedly, and that would rock the boat again. And I was constantly putting it down to external stuff.
Like it was happening to you.
Yeah, and now, even though we have challenges in life, don't get me wrong, I'm not like skipping and dancing every day, but I don't worry about what life throws at me, because I know I might be sad, I might be angry, I might be overwhelmed or whatever, but I also know, I really know in here that I'm okay regardless of what happens.
And is that where the consciousness comes in?
So the consciousness is, it's almost like, how would we know we were having the thoughts if we didn't have a level of consciousness, like the awareness? It's what holds it all together, and we know that we're alive, basically. And so again, I sometimes refer to it almost like your mood will fluctuate. So if you're in a lower state of mind, for example, and you're feeling a little bit fed up or whatever, it's likely that when you're lower down this sort of level of consciousness, that your world shrinks a little bit. It's likely that you're going to notice your thoughts more, you're going to pay more attention to them, it's more likely that you're going to believe them. And so also a part of understanding this and getting to grips with it is realizing that it's not about, understanding that thought creates feeling and bam, I've got it and now I'm all good to go. It's about navigating that with the natural ups and downs of life and mood and fluctuations that is inevitably going to happen. So for example, in the past, if I was in a bad mood or I woke up feeling slightly deflated, I'd probably then go into figuring out mode. What's wrong with me? Maybe it's this, maybe it's that happened 2 days ago, or maybe it's when my husband said this, or maybe it's that. And I'd feed it and I'd get frustrated, and then I'd try and force myself out of it. Whereas now I just accept I'm feeling a little bit lower state of mind. So what I need to do is be compassionate with myself and allow myself some leeway. That is it. Simple as that. Because it's always going to shift. It's never going to stay low. And people will say, I feel low for a long time. And again, it's because they're interfering. Everybody feels low. And then it shifts and it changes if we just allow it. Whereas if we get so fixated on the fact, someone said to me recently, was asking about my members club and said, I'm really interested in coming in, but I'll just let you know I'm a really negative person. And in a way it was like, what do you want me to buy into that? And go, and actually I don't believe for 1 minute that you're a really negative person. I believe that you may feel stuck in negativity right now. That's maybe how you perceive yourself. But the fact that you're a human being, I know you have the same potential as every single other one of us to be joyous and loving and everything else. But we create stories, don't we? I'm just like this. My story used to be, I get anxious. I'm an anxious person, which makes me laugh now because I just think I was almost borderline obsessed with it. It was just such a big focus in my life, but felt like it had to be because otherwise something really awful was going to happen.
Yeah, to survive. Yeah. When you say that, so I guess I'm understanding what you're saying when you said that I'm a negative person, and I understand that that's a belief, and that we can invest energy into being stuck in those places, like you say. So I'm thinking, as a psychotherapist, when the days when you practice the psychotherapy and you'd go back to childhood, you'd go back about the history, relationships, attachments and things. So what happens when those beliefs are actually present in their life? So the overworker, the one that's in the unhealthy relationship, so that actually it's the way that they feel is being reinforced by what's on the outside.
Okay.
So I know that, I guess, when your autonomy is to be able to I know they said control, but to be able to have that awareness of yourself and to be able to have the compassion and navigate through that. I'm wondering then how the 3 principles come into play when that person is stuck externally as well.
So they're only ever stuck externally through their thinking. So they're not really stuck externally, they're stuck internally. And this is the bit where I had to stop working as a psychotherapist if I was going to do this fully, because I couldn't go back into somebody's history and ask them to tell me what happened when they were 5, 6, 7, 8, connect the dots to how that now impacts on them. Yeah, of course, our past experiences have some impact on how we are now. But I feel that even if someone's experienced trauma in their past, they're only ever re-experiencing that through their thinking now.
Yeah.
So the suffering comes from thinking about previous. Now, this isn't to say, oh, just forget what happened, move on, get on with it. It's not that at all. You might have, so something might happen and then they might have thoughts about something that happened in their past that then create uncomfortable feelings, discomfort. They might feel sad, angry, scared, whatever it is. It's perfectly okay to honour those things. Those feelings are going to come and they are going to pass. Okay, be passionate, they're going to pass. But what the 3 principles wouldn't then do is go, let's look at why you keep getting those. Let's go over and process what happened in the past. Now, if someone comes to me and they want to talk to me about what happened in their past, I'm going to completely honour that and I'm just going to listen, because they just might want to be heard and they might want to listen. But I'm not going to take somebody back there, which is what I used to do a lot. I'm not going to take somebody back there. What I'm going to do is show them how they move forward, because they're only still experiencing it now through their thinking. And because something that's traumatic maybe the thoughts can create feelings very quickly that feel very intense very quickly, there's more of a tendency then to believe it's happening now and it's a part of you, and it's almost like we're made of this experience and that's why we're broken. It's not a part of you. It's an experience you are having through your thoughts.
So the reason I ask that is because particularly these online clinics are, a response to the coronavirus and being in lockdown. And I'm thinking that some people are, kind of the people that do invest a lot of time and energy in work, and how that is about, I guess, disconnecting from parts of their history, trauma, or disconnecting from thought, for example. So I think it's useful for those people, or people that have experienced trauma, or like challenging relationships or unhealthy relationships, or as far as abusive relationships. So how this then they can take information from this as well to, I guess, how it can challenge their thinking and the way that they manage it.
Yeah, and it's about it. The more we understand how thought works, it's a bit like so if someone does a magic trick and you can't. Alex, I'm just going to let my dog in because he's clawing at the door. 1 second. Sorry. Lie down then. So say you see a magic trick and you don't really know how it works, you don't know what's behind it, and it's a bit like, ooh, it's all like mysterious and wonderful and like fascinating. And then suddenly someone tells you how it's done. It like takes all the energy out of it, value out of it, everything. And it's the same exploring how thought works. So you might have a thought, I'm going to go and run in front of that bus. And if you have that thought repeatedly and it's like that shock factor of, oh gosh, I just had that thought and it's awful. But once you understand how thought works, it takes away that intensity and that magic, because you're like, it's just a thought. And it's really easy for me to say right now, it's just a thought, because that's where I'm at. And I know in the past when someone had said to me, it's just a thought, I'd be like, yeah, but you're not feeling the way I'm feeling right now. So don't tell me it's just a thought. But you've got to it's trusting mind that it's all covered. It's seeing actually how thoughts work, and then it's navigating that kind of ebbs and flows and ups and downs of life. And it is so simple, but the tendency is to want to overcomplicate it. And the funny thing for me is I spent, I don't know, tens of thousands of pounds trying to fix myself. And ultimately, the thing that changed my life was something I came across and researched and watched and explored on the flipping internet for nothing. I mean, I went on to I paid quite an excessive amount for that psychiatrist. Not excessive because he's well worth it, but because he's at the top of his game, it was like paying a lot per session for him as a mentor. But that's because I wanted to understand more and more and more about it. And it's the best money I've ever spent. And I will continue to do that, because this is the other thing with this. We keep learning, and the more we learn, the better things feel.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it's hard to do it like this, like you can't really do a presentation on the 3 principles and go, this is the 3 principles and this is how it works, because that intellectualizes it. It's like, it's not a theory or a textbook. That's why. So for example, the structure of my membership group is people will ask questions and I will just answer from a 3 principles perspective of how I see things. And then what will happen is they'll just get a little ping. Oh, I've just realized something. When I do this, it's this and this. And it's funny because in the beginning they'll say to me, I don't think I'm ever going to get it. I don't understand the 3 principles. I'm not getting it. What's wrong with me? And I just say, keep listening, just keep listening. And then eventually they go, I think I'm getting it. And it's funny because I was exactly the same. I'm like, what is this 3 principles? And, do I need to research the life out of it? Do I need to really, it's just telling you how human nature works. It's just telling us what we've already got access to and giving us the trust to not interfere with human nature, which is what we're doing all the time.
Yeah. So I guess it's information, isn't it? And then relearning with the trust issue, with the trust side of things.
Yeah, it's letting go of control, of thinking we're in control when we're just not, and being, because at first me thinking, I'm not in control of anything, that felt scary, whereas now I'm like, I'm not in control of anything, and I don't need to be. It's quite freeing, actually.
So you can go with the flow as opposed to trying to kind of get back.
Yeah, and the irony is, the more you go with the flow, the more success you see in your life. It's like magic.
Wonderful. Now I know you've got your membership call to do a little bit later, so am I all right to go on to these questions?
Yeah,
And we'll just,
yeah.
you likely have probably covered them. So one of them was, I'm worrying about having to go to public places and fear of contracting the virus.
Okay. So I would love to say to you, you're not going to contract the virus, but I don't know that. Okay. And I think when we're wondering what if, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to search for an answer that's going to give us some level of reassurance that we're not going to get it. Now, I could sit here and tell you that the likelihood of you getting it is probably very slim. However, when you're in that moment and you're thinking, what if I get it? It would be awful. What about this? What about that? This is an example of where we get so engrossed in it that we start to believe our thoughts to be true. Where actually right now you haven't got it. If you take the precautions you're asked to take and go and do your social distancing and whatever and do what you need to do, it's about putting things into perspective that actually it's unlikely you will. And I know this might sound like really irritating, but actually, again, it's about knowing that you're going to be okay. You're going to be able to navigate your way through. You know, we could say, oh, don't go near a shop. But, you know, we have to eat. We have to, you know, we have to have a balanced view of it. And I get that when you're, you know, it's a bit like using your full stop. So you might go, oh, I might get it if I go to the shops and that's making me feel really uncomfortable. Full stop, that's okay. You can go to the shops with that discomfort. You can still do that. And you use your full stop. Yeah, I'm anxious about it. I'm going to the shops and I'm anxious about it. That's okay. It's when we layer up the thought and we don't use our full stop. I'm anxious about it. And what about this? And what about this person? And before you know it, you've worked yourself up into a complete panic.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So nervous system triggered. Yeah, so if you use your full stop, then what that does is it becomes just a thought as opposed to the information to your body then that it's under threat. And so your nervous system stays, I guess your parasympathetic nervous system, the one that keeps you grounded and regulated, is still in control.
And actually you're going to be much more capable of socially distancing, doing all the right things with a clearer mind rather than a panicked mind. You know, if I go out somewhere panicked, I'll forget things. You know, we've always got a much better chance even of fighting a virus with a calmer mind.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it's using that full stop. But people think it's not about, oh, how do I get rid of those thoughts that I'm going to get the virus? I need them to stop. You can't. I would put my life on it that all of us have had that thought at some point. It's whether what we do with it and how much value and energy we give that thought as to whether we get on with our lives or not.
Yeah. And I guess that's going to take a lot of practice, isn't it? That, you know, kind of using the full stop.
The practice is, again, the full stop is a way of starting to get you to stop interfering. You know, you might have the thought, oh, well, I'm going to go to the shops and I might get the virus in a public place. And then that thought will come and it'll go. And the next minute you'll be thinking, what are we having for tea? Or where's my car keys? But the only reason the thoughts are not going to shift to the next thing is because you're trying to figure out what it means that you've had that thought. Should I be listening to that thought? You know, am I silly if I go because I'm having these thoughts? No, because they're just thoughts. They're not reality. They're just thoughts.
Brilliant. So the next one is, I'm worrying about the impact my worry is having on my children. Worry.
So this is probably one of the most common questions I get asked. And if I think back to when I was anxious, the minute my daughter would seem even remotely stressed about anything, in my head, I would go straight to a place of, oh my God, she's like me. What have I done to her? I've damaged her. She's seen too much of my anxiety. Maybe it's hereditary. Maybe all of this stuff where I would panic. And then I would go into solution-focused problem solving. Right, you need to do this, this, and this, and so that you're calm. And tell me how you're feeling. What's worrying you? Blah, blah, all of this. Like, let's feed it. And the only thing, we're always seeing everything through our own eyes, our own thoughts, our own perception, even our children. Even me sometimes, she'd say to me, Mum, you're telling me I'm stressed and I'm not stressed, but now I'm getting stressed because you keep telling me I'm stressed. It's like, leave me alone. You know, when we see, you've got little ones, when you see a toddler having a tantrum, They're stressed, they're overwhelmed, they're in a tantrum. Then 2 seconds later, they're building bricks and they're happy. They are a perfect example of how we just let things flow without interference. You can go from feeling like you want to punch a wall and you want to kill someone to feeling happy and laughing again. And that's what toddlers do all the time. Yet we see someone through our own eyes, so like I did with my daughter, and rather than let her go through the bit of stress or whatever anxiety she's having and worry and let her come out the other side of it, because that's how the system works, I would see it as an issue and something I needed to solve. Am I doing this right with it? Am I doing that right with it? All I was doing is projecting, worrying because of my experience of anxiety and worry. She isn't me. And what's changed now is because I don't worry about anxiety for me anymore, I definitely don't worry about it for her either. And I know that even if she had a panic attack, if she got really anxious about something, I know it's temporary. So it doesn't, and I get it's so awful as a parent to see your children worrying, but it's not that I don't care about her as much. Of course I do, but I just don't worry about that stuff now. But that has to come from you. Yeah. So the more you understand how this stuff works, then you will see. So when I see my daughter now, she gets stressed, I will see it and I'll know, well, she's had a whole load of thinking that's now created these feelings, and then this is a behaviour as a response to that uncomfortable feeling. It doesn't worry me. It's just an experience that she's having. Yeah.
It's in the process.
Yeah, and I don't need to, get her to talk to me about it for 20 minutes in order, because that's just going to keep it there longer. I just let her system and her body figure out her way. If she asks for my support, then yeah. And if she was having constant panic attacks, obviously I'm going to intervene. But I think what we do as parents, as soon as we see any discomfort, we just want it gone. And life's not like that. Like, children are not going to go through life without worrying. Yeah, they're going to worry.
That's where resilience comes from, is it?
Absolutely. And that's a lot of what Mind is, and Trust is seeing that. So if I do any training with children, that's the stuff I'll say to them. It's about seeing that spark inside, that guidance, that resilience, and getting them to see it's not about solving their problems. It's not about fixing things, because if we're going to solve problems and fix things, then we're kind of saying there is a problem and something that needs fixing, when actually there won't be.
And because there isn't, that's why you get signed up for life, really, isn't it? It's a job for life to try and fix that.
Sure is, and very expensive, let me tell you. I wouldn't recommend it.
And the last one, how can I make my 10-year-old feel safe when he's worrying about loved one's health?
Okay. Can't make anyone feel safe. Yeah. 10's quite a common age, actually, for them to start to worry about loved ones. It's usually around the time where they start to realise that people can die, that parents are going to get old one day, and all of that stuff. So there's natural elements, and I think we all go through it. I mean, I can remember doing it. Not everybody will, but you will have at some point had a realisation, oh, people can die, they get old, they get ill. It's just more to think about. And the thing is that we want to, again, shield it from them. And so, for example, if my daughter was worried about me, if any of us think about death for long enough, we're going to feel terrible. Like, that's just how it works. So, again, say if my child would say to me, I'm worried about that one day you're going to die, then I could do the whole, well, I'm not going anywhere just now, and I'm only young and I've got plenty of time, and that's giving her more things to consider. Yeah, but what if you got this? Or she'll say to me, your dad died when he was only 63, and that's only 20 years for you, and I'll only be this age, and then it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So what I do is I don't focus on that worry, because that's just a natural worry. But what I do is I spend as much time as I can, again, building that resilience in her, letting her see that she is okay, regardless of what happens to me, not in those words, but teaching them about how thoughts work and how they create our feelings. One example, which when she was probably about 10, she was going on her, is it at the end of primary school age 10? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's 11, isn't it?
She was going on like her end of school trip thing, and she was getting worried about going. She was excited, but she was getting worried. And I remember her packing a bag, and she was almost going from being excited to then she started to get really upset. And so I sat down and I was like, why are you upset? And she said, well, because I'm going to really miss you. So I feel sad that I'm going to really miss you. And so things that I would then say to her is, like, I said to her, but you're really sad now and you're crying because you're going to miss me, but I'm sat right next to you. So you're sad. You feel sad right now and you're missing me and I'm sat next to you. So can you see how those feelings are coming from you thinking that you're going to miss me? Yeah. And actually, they're not a sign that you need to worry about being without me. They're just, those feelings are just there because you're having thoughts that are not very nice. How am I going to be on my own? And then you should be imagining, you know, it got to 12 o'clock. What if everyone's asleep before me? What if this? What if that? And so there's always little examples where we can come in under the radar and help them over time build up that resilience. Because
I like that. So basically what you're saying is, well, it's okay if you do miss me. Yeah. And the mind bit about, and you'll be okay and you'll figure it out and you'll, you know, you're capable and you can trust yourself enough to be okay.
Sometimes I'll say to my, I mean, she's doesn't really worry about that stuff now, but, you know, she's nearly 13, but something that I would say to her, I wouldn't send you somewhere I didn't think was safe. You know, so if I'm trusting that you know, you're safe, then, you know, you're capable. I'm saying you're capable. You might not feel it because you're not thinking that you are, but I know you are. And again, with illness, like, there's no point in saying to them, oh no, that won't happen, because in their mind at that moment, they think it might and they believe in it. So you're just
that's the problem, isn't it?
Yeah, and we just get into a battle with them of, like, trying to combat their anxious mind, where actually I would be pointing them in the opposite direction. Yes, people get ill and it's really sad, and we all stick together in those times, but look at how much we can enjoy in life and experience whilst we're here. We've only got now, and let's just take everything as it comes. And it's learning, it's for them to learn to, yes, we have anxious thoughts. It's the not holding on to it that they need to explore, because that way we can't protect them from worried thoughts. They're going to have them. And if you put a child or anybody in a room on their own for a week, an empty room, they'd still find something to worry about. Like, we're always going to worry. We all carry worries around with us all the time, but it's how the intensity of those and then the restriction of them depends on how much we hold on to them and how much energy and value we give to them. Yeah. And as parents, it's really tempting to want to help and fix, but actually indirectly we can keep it there longer because we're giving them more to think about.
Thank you very much, Sarie.
No problem at all.
Before you go, say again, sorry.
You know, I like talking, as you know.
Yeah, well, I guess when I sent you the invite to come and do this with them, and it was just like a straight away yes. I
never say no to anything because I just think sometimes the amount of messages I get from people who will have just watched some random video somewhere and say, you just said this once and it really helped, and that's what an insight is. So I just love the fact that people can help.
What I've taken away, not from today actually, but something that I've used since. So you did a podcast recently, and I think it was there that I heard it. So I gave it a listen because I thought that was the most recent thing that I've seen you share with regards to being interviewed. So I thought I'd do a little bit of homework. And it was the analogy of the red skittle in a glass of water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea that you can drop a skittle in a glass of water and you can see it and you can go about your business. This might be my perception of it, and I might be changing.
Well, that's the only one that counts anyway, so.
Yeah, thank you. That you can see the skittle and you can go about your business and you can come back and it's still a skittle in a glass of water, or you can stare it and then it changes the colour because it's red, it changes the water pink. And everything's contaminated then, and then it's like, and you're investing energy.
Yeah, so it's like the clarity, you know, if I put water in there and put something like a skittle in, a bit of the colour would come off. So we have a thought and it does sometimes create an instant little bit of leakage and discomfort. But if we just leave it, we've still got all that clarity and that clear water, that clarity of thinking. And this is why when people get so clouded with anxious thought, because it's like they're mixing it, going, but why? And what's going on? And what's happening? And why am I having this thought? And what does this say about me? And that's where then the clarity of the water, it's just all discoloured, because it's just, you're just messing with it. It's just, we need to leave things well alone and let them do their thing. And I love, you know, when people say to me, well, you say make it sound really simple. And I've had so many people on my page saying to me, well, you can't possibly understand anxiety. And they obviously don't know much about me and my background. So you can't possibly, if you think it's that simple, then you don't know what having real anxiety is like, and you know, you're being disrespectful. And I always just throw in there saying, I was in hospital for a month. I was truly certified mental and diagnosed with, I don't know, general anxiety disorder or whatever it was. I can't even remember. I was like, so I'm pretty sure that that's earning my stripes, to be fair, to know how bad it can be. And I'm still telling you it's that simple.
Yeah, absolutely. So if any of my clients are watching this, this is the lady that I stole the skit analogy from.
Well, I stole it from someone else. I can't remember. I watched that many. I think it was Nicola Bird. Something of hers I watched that did that. But what you'll find with the 3 principles is lots of coaches use the same examples or versions of and your own interpretation of it, which is lovely. And the other thing about this community of 3 principles is no one's going to go, that's mine. And that's because it's just, no, this is just us trying to actually explain something that's quite difficult to explain because you can't grasp it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not tangible, is it? It's a lived experience.
Yeah, so just share away anything like that, ever.
Oh, I will. Thank you. Right, I'm going to let you go, Sarie.
So, thanks for having me on, and I'll speak to you soon, no doubt.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself.
Bye.
See you. Bye.